Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Jess here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I have already done the 100 heads challenge as well as the 100 hands challenge. And in this video, I'm going to show you my whole process on my 100 eyes challenge. So let's begin. I've been feeling extremely creative, so I'll be experimenting with different little techniques and I'll be showing you guys some new options that I came up with for myself. I'll also walk you guys through my whole thought process and why I truly feel that 100 challenges are extremely beneficial. So when I always start out my challenges, I usually begin with pencil, but this time I decided to jump straight in with paint and try to do a colored pencil under the paint to see how it can show through and how I can layer one another. Whenever I start off a drawing or a challenge, I always make sure to set some goals. You guys already know the drill. And then I just begin to make a plan for when I'm going to achieve those goals, especially in my challenges. I was really itching and craving to paint, so I just decided to jump straight in with acrylics in the beginning, and I was really happy about that. Now, I did gesso the paper on my sketchbook, so I made sure to have a good base layer, and I also have been experimenting with some limited color palettes, so I was really enjoying this first page and made sure to try out some color options for myself since I will be planning a large painting, and this was a great way to experiment with some options. I really didn't have a specific plan for the placement of each eye on this page, so I was really focusing on an interesting composition and I played around with different sizes of the eyes as well. So I kind of had the center big eye in the middle, and then I had formed out some smaller and smaller eyes around and played around with some little design techniques as well. I had a little bit of those droopy watercolorish marks, and I really recommend to, if you're using acrylic, maybe try out some watery textures under and build your layers up. As you guys could see, I'm not even starting out with any pencil. I just decided to go straight in with my acrylic, again to challenge myself to create those shapes with the values and the larger brushstrokes that I begin with. And that's another reason why I start off with a really light kind of value when I'm painting. That way I have a light sketch happening, as you can see there, and then I'm building up my shadows and darker parts when I have established my main shapes. I'm always looking for balance in my art and actually in life, so I like to add similar colors and elements throughout the page to make sure it does look balanced. And here's the first page of the first 10 eyes of the 100 eyes challenge. Alright, so the first 10 are down and now it's time to do the next spread. I initially began right away with some ballpoint pen. I know you guys love when I do the sketches with ballpoint pens, and honestly it has been my go-to tool when I have been sketching. And I recently got this multicolored pen. It has been amazing to sketch with. It's super affordable and I recommend it to absolutely anyone. I have done a video on ballpoint pen sketching, so if you haven't watched that one, be sure to check it out. So for this spread, I decided to practice pairs of eyes kind of in columns, and I wanted to do different colors, sort of how I did in my 100 heads challenge. So I'm just focusing on really building up those values and trying to create a very interesting shape with my cross-hatching lines. When I was looking for references, I made sure to find eyes that are looking in different directions, people with different genders as well as age groups, so I was really focusing on creating a variety and trying out different things, as usual. The next column I chose to do in blue, and of course I had to print in someone with some glasses. I love drawing people with glasses. My fruit heads all had glasses and I really had a good time with that. Glasses are actually very challenging, so I always try to find ways to make things a little bit harder and more difficult for myself so that I can tackle them in my drawings and in my skills. So wherever you are in your path in creativity, make sure that you are challenging yourself and trying out new things and trying out things that will be a little bit more difficult for you, and you will surprise yourself how you can actually tackle them and you will love what you create. So finishing up this next column in blue, I decided to go ahead and do the next column using red. So when I was actually initially beginning the 100 eyes challenge, I knew I had a love for drawing eyes, since if you guys remember from my previous videos, I mentioned that I've always was drawing them when I was younger, and I actually love drawing eyes. So I made sure to milk the process and make sure that I'm enjoying every step of the way. Also gained a huge love for doing the 100 anything challenges, because I gain a growth and a improvement in my skill and in my art. It's a great way to fill my sketchbook. So I love showing you guys my thought process and recording all of the progress along the way. I actually had a professor in my school, and he was always saying that if you want to get better at drawing something, grab a sketchbook and draw 100 of it. You are bound to improve. And that really stuck with me, so I'm continuing to practice and grow and improve. The next 30 eyes and the next sketchbook spread is complete, and now I decided to take my wooden panels that I mentioned in the previous video, which I have already gessoed with acrylic gesso, which, if you guys don't know, is a primer for your surfaces. It makes sure that it seals the surface and is ready to paint on. I had found these at the store and I decided to include them in my challenge. Why not, right? Once I have primed them with my acrylic gesso, it was time to start with my oil paint. I had this crazy idea of doing no sketch and just starting off with paint and using absolutely no white and doing a limited color palette, so I chose red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, basically the colors of the rainbow. Since I had 6 of the horizontal wooden panels, I chose 6 limited color palettes for each eye pair. So here is how the red eyes came out. I was super impressed with how bright the colors were whenever you don't use any white. So moving on to the next one, it was time to do orange. I only chose those colors and made sure that I stuck to using no white under any circumstances. So this was definitely a challenge for me as well, and I actually learned so much and how you can actually use the midtone to be a lighter color of your orange, and then your shadows can simply be acting as orange itself. And I definitely felt like I was on a roll with this one, and I couldn't stop painting them. They did take about an hour and a half each, so the time lapse is sped up since I don't want the video to be about 6 hours long. So I wanted to show you guys this, but here is how they look against one another, and I was super excited because I was going to stack them into one kind of little mini series, and it was time to do yellow. Now, on a side note, you may be wondering why I decided to do the rainbow. I actually saw one outside of my window in the studio and I was immediately inspired. I always say that inspiration is all around us, so simply something around you can inspire a color palette. So think about that when you're working in your sketchbook next time. Maybe if you're unsure of what to do, simply look around you and use that as an inspiration for your color palette. So as I was finishing up yellow, it definitely was a challenge since it was a lighter color, but I thought that it came out great and I was ready to move on to the next color, which was green. So I want to talk a little bit more about my references and what I decided to choose when I was looking for the eyes to draw. As always, I'm trying to put a little bit more concept into my art, not just referring on the references. So for this pair of eyes, I actually used Robin Williams' eyes, which is a celebrity that I absolutely love. I think he is incredible. Everything he stands by and all his movies just always made me laugh. So I tried to pick references of people who have influenced me and actually celebrities who I really enjoy and touched a place in my heart. I also love using the website called unsplash.com. It's a royalty-free image website. I will link everything in the description. So that's basically what I used for my references. Some references I also grabbed from Pinterest, but I made sure to change the color palette and give a little bit of my own design elements to it as well. As you can see here, for the blue eyes, I decided to combine the light blue and the dark blue of the colors of the rainbow and also add a design sort of watery element to the panel. Blue seems to remind me of water, so that's just what came to my mind at the moment, and I just made it happen. Moving on to the last color, which is violet and purple. For my panel eyes, I decided to do a very simple eye for this look. And as I was finishing up and stacking them all together, it was really nice to see my vision come to life. So now that I've finished the 6 oil paintings, I actually decided to collage some Bristol paper and go in with my love for markers, which I haven't touched in so long. Fun fact, about 5 or 6 years ago, I used to only draw with markers. My Prismacolor markers were my best friends, but I decided to kind of revisit them this time and just go straight in without any pencil and create some random color eyes. At a point, I just closed my eyes and chose random colors and then went in with some pencil on top. This challenge was really me revisiting my love for some mediums that I've always loved to use. I don't know about you guys, but I have cravings for certain mediums at certain times. So as you can see, I did some oil paint already, some acrylic, and it was really nice to get back into markers. And again, I was playing around with random color palettes and limited colors specifically to make sure that I set rules for myself so that I have some sort of constraint. I really loved the softness that I created with this pair of eyes in pink. So again, I was playing around with variety in boldness and creating some things to be super bold and super soft. Here I'm doing an eye in black and white as a close-up for the eyes that I'm going to draw next. I decided to go in with the French grays in the Prismacolor marker set, and then on top I went in with a really detailed fine liner. So here's the pair of eyes that I did on the side of that, and the eye on the right that is enlarged is a sort of like a zoomed in version of the eye on the right. And here's the finished result of some quick marker drawings. On the next page, I was craving to do some color pencils, so I changed it up a little bit. And as I had my workflow going, I had some new ideas to do like abstract shapes, kind of creating the eyes. So again, with a limited color palette using my colored pencils, I began to form out these eyes, and then around it, I started to form out some sort of abstract shape. And I think that was a really good experiment for myself because I always tend to do doodles along with realism, so I was trying to find a balance in between that. These are just personal little thoughts that go on while I'm drawing, so I definitely recommend to evaluate yourself and how much you draw and how you draw to create your own challenges for yourself, and maybe you will have ideas that pop in that will be strictly your own that you'll want to experiment with. So here I'm grabbing a red colored pencil, and this is actually a watercolor pencil. It's super soft to draw with, and I really enjoyed this one. While I'm drawing, I'm thinking about creating a connection with all of my lines. I always like to say that everything is connected, which I strongly believe, so here I'm implementing that in my drawing. I then took another colored pencil, which is blue. Love, love, love drawing with blue. And wanted to create a different expression. I want to make sure that I again have variety in my challenge. So here these eyes are kind of looking off to a different direction, and I have these fluid lines inside of the shape. I have never drawn a shape like this before, so I was really pushing myself to do something a little bit different. And here's how the top panel came out. I didn't realize I actually used the primary colors, but sometimes happy accidents happen. For the bottom panel, which I pasted a tone paper into my sketchbook, I used only black and white colored pencil. I love going back to basics and using only black and white. It's a great way to see values and just really focus on the lights and shadows of the subject. I also decided to draw these relatively small since some of the eyes I was drawing a little bit bigger on the others, so I was really kind of playing around with size and having some eyes a little bit more wider open, little different ethnicities. So again, more variety and continuing to focus on the overall form. For the last two eyes, I decided to do a profile view, and here's how the grayscale tone paper eyes came out. Okay, spread number 3 is complete. Let's move on to the next one. I admit it, guys, I'm addicted to painting, so here I'm actually going back in with my acrylics, and I wanted to play around with a floral eye. Had a random idea come in of like an eye inside a flower, but also make it more flat, sort of like a pattern maybe. So here's what I was playing around with here, and I was loving the therapeutic little dots. It was so fun and satisfying. So for the first one, I decided to do a blue flower, playing around with the complementary colors, and then I decided to do a sunflower. Sunflowers are one of my favorite flowers. You guys know I have been drawing them in my sketchbook a few times, and I had these happy sunflower illustrations in my sketchbook tours, and I have a sunflower tote in my shop. Yeah, I love sunflowers. I don't know, they just make me happy. They remind me of the sun, and it just makes me feel warm. So after I created the purple base and the yellow sunflower, I went in with a brush pen to try to get some doodles in. And of course, I was craving some doodles at this point, so I actually put all of the references away and just worked out of my head. I think it's really important to take some time and dive into your own creativity and see what you can create without any references. So I made sure to challenge myself to put all of the references away and simply create from my mind. I always love to put some music on and kind of paint and draw to the rhythm. So I was experimenting with different shapes, and yeah, it was actually coming out really cool. And then I had a sudden spark of creativity to create a full page illustration. And I honestly shocked myself with the outcome. I loved it so much. And more importantly, I fell in love with the process. So here's the result of a giant doodle session. There are officially 95 eyes and 5 more left, and I was feeling super creative, so I decided to take these wooden coasters that I found, push myself even further, and I thought to myself, why don't I create 5 reptile eyes? I was extremely stoked about the idea, so I quickly got to sketching. I made sure to sand the surface actually at first, and then I used a harder pencil to sketch out the different reptiles. I find their eyes to be super interesting, and I was excited to paint every single little detail of it. And since there are 5 eyes left, I made a quick list and plan of the types of eyes of the reptiles that I'm going to make studies of. And I ended up choosing a crocodile, a chameleon, a lizard, an alligator, and an iguana. Since they're going to be finished acrylic pieces, I made sure to have a nice detailed sketch to make sure that I have the proper placement. And essentially, I did the same process that I would take for any sort of finished acrylic or oil painting. And once all these sketches were ready and complete, I took my fluid matte medium by Golden and made sure to seal my drawing. And this prevents the pencil from smudging when you begin painting. Up first, I painted the crocodile eye. I find their eyes to be so cool and mysterious, and this one was one of my first that I've painted and one of my favorites of the 5. I also shared this with you guys on Instagram because I couldn't contain the surprise and the excitement, and you guys loved it on there. And by the way, if you haven't found my Instagram yet, I will link it in the description, so be sure to find my page on there. I post lots of fun stories and updates, so be sure to check that out. Number 1 of the 5 panels is complete, and let's move on to the next one. Let's do the chameleon next. So if you're still watching the full video, thank you so much for still being here. You're awesome. I hope you guys are enjoying the content so far. I know that all the videos are sped up, but if they were not, we would probably be here for many hours. But the good news is that on my Patreon, I will be doing a long study of one of the eyes. I'm going to have a real-time exclusive video this month, and I have one every month. So if you want to join that tier, it's open to everyone. I've recently started this fun community and I love all the artists on there. You guys are super supportive, so shout out to all my Patreons. You guys are awesome. It's totally optional to join, but if you want some extra cool content and stuff and surprises, be sure to check it out. Up next, I decided to tackle the lizard, and I was going for a really bright color palette. I wanted to make sure that as a bunch, they all look cohesive yet different. I'm constantly trying to look at the bigger picture to make sure that as a group, they look as if they are as one, if that makes sense. And painting these and seeing them come to life is really one of the most greatest feelings. Enjoy the process for the last two, and I'll catch you at the end. As I'm finishing eye number 100, not only am I feeling the most incredible feeling of accomplishment, but I'm really proud of the things that I've learned in this challenge, every challenge that I create for myself as an artist. Everything you create and everything you draw or paint, there's always something that you're going to learn and take away from it. And seeing the finished result will always motivate you to keep going and strive to a higher level. I always like to say to paint and draw what you love, so I'm really glad that I did all 100 and I'm able to share it with you all. Here is the finished piece of the iguana eye and eye number 100. The last 5 acrylic paintings are here and done. I love how they're looking as a bunch. Definitely one of the coolest little series that I have ever done, and it was my first time painting on these type of wooden panels. But it's now time to enjoy the full flip through. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel for more art videos. Also, be sure to check out my website. I will be having some of these on my shop as a one-of-a-kind piece for sale, so be on the lookout. Don't forget to stay creative, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!